Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're doing fantastic. No, like really though, like I hope you're actually doing like incredibly well and that you're all having a great day. Another day of crazy cryptocurrency news out there. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. The cryptocurrency space, for as long as I've been here, has been marred in a certain level of controversy always. Where, and I'll give it to you this way, we typically receive some kind of news. I look around for 14 and a half seconds and find out that that news isn't true. I was trying to rhyme there. We've seen this consistently, whether it be with altcoins coming out and someone talking negatively about them, trying to get them to not be popular. This was made incredibly clear back when Ethereum and XRP were released. The same exact thing with Tether. The idea of stablecoins, for those of you who do not know, was originally placed as an idea of a stable form of a digital currency that would allow people who were within the cryptocurrency space, who were trading, day trading, what have you, that would allow them to be able to swap out of their coins as opposed to having to swap into another coin. Let me try to explain. Back in the olden days, when there were no stable coins and Bitcoin was falling in price, the only option you had was to move your money into another coin that also had a large amount of trading volume. So this sometimes was usually XRP, which used to be the number 2 coin, Ethereum. You also had a couple of other random coins back then. And then somebody was like, no, let's make a coin that's kind of pegged 1-to-1 to the US dollar. The issue with this is, there's a gigantic issue, is that this used to be illegal to basically make your own form of the US dollar in any sort of way. So for those of you who don't know part of the original story of PayPal, we were told, at least through the digital grapevine, that the original intention of PayPal was meant to be something similar to DigiCash, which was a predecessor of Bitcoin. And it was the idea of a digital version of the dollar that had a 1-to-1 value with the dollar that you could use online. PayPal originally tried to do this, make their own digital money online, but they were in an office and they were quickly shut down. They transformed and merged with PayPal, with eBay, and kind of became the PayPal that we currently know today. Stablecoins, and especially Tether, was something completely unprecedented. I know, it may not be the most exciting thing in the entire world, but someone had figured out a way to be able to do it and also collateralize it as well. The other issue is that people realized that someone else was able to do it, and they tried to get them torn apart, to fall apart, to lose their money, to lose their value as other people began to copy them. You've seen before, there have been multiple news agencies and companies, especially since 2017, who've been talking about that Tether's fraudulent. Tether's this. Tether doesn't have the money to back them up. Tether's a lie. Tether's a scam. And over and over and over. And we kept on going over those videos for those of you who were here years ago. And it was very easy to see, as I told you thousands of times, because people were very skeptical, even in the comment section here. It used to be littered with people talking about that Tether's awful because people fall for propaganda very, very, very easily. Especially as Tether began to come forward. And I think at some point they had 3 companies who were auditing them to look and see, what they had to actually back up the Tether. Because some of the original lies were that Tether was simply creating Tether to buy more Bitcoin and to use that Tether then to do other things and then to crash. And it was all these kind of theories for what was going on, very similar to in the early days of Bitcoin. I remember reading online, a lot of people were constantly asking, what were the transactions, like the mathematical equations that were being done to mine Bitcoin? Why were they there? And people were like, well, part of the computing is that you need to do the transactions, or the computer has to do them. And then as you are validating transactions around the world to make sure that these transactions are real, you are rewarded with Bitcoin. And people were like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And it was like a 4-year-long discussion where people couldn't wrap their heads around it. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. The entire idea of Tether, like making it and having made it and having been one of the first companies to have to show us, or they decided to show us, their daily audits to show us that they actually had the money. This was the ramp leading up to Facebook having their own coin as well. The idea was, if you begin to make your own digital version of the US dollar that the US government does not control, and people decide to use that more than the original system, what happens to the original system? In Facebook's case, it was if Facebook actually ends up making their dollar, this was once again years ago, and you realize it was torn apart quite quickly, it's because we found out, the public, so internally there must have been some crazy stuff going on. We found out that allegedly the people from Facebook had been talking to a number of world leaders to basically get them to adopt their stablecoin as like a form of legal tender within their country. The rumor was in exchange for building up their infrastructure. So therefore, these companies would be in debt to Facebook. And because of I think it was 1 or 2 billion people back then that were using Facebook, Facebook would have instantaneously become the largest bank on the planet. And that sent regulators around the world into a complete tizzy very fast. And it was almost as dramatic as the entire Tether thing. You're going to understand what all of this means as we go through this, because this popped up, and like it doesn't take that long to find the actual answer. It's usually even right in front of you sometimes, as cheesy and afternoon specially as that actually sounds. This was major news. Not like lightly popular, maybe some people were talking about it. No. This was incredibly popular news, and I know exactly why, and I'm going to tell you why. A recent study conducted by Visa and Allium, Allium Labs, has suggested that the vast majority of stablecoin transactions are initiated by robots or bots and large-scale traders, not genuine users. I'm going to get there because your mind's going to be completely blown when I tell you exactly what they're alluding to. The dashboard, designed to isolate transactions made by people, found out stable coins alone. Did you hear the words I said? Just stable coins in April did $2.2 trillion worth of transactions. Do you understand why Coinbase and Circle went on a frenzy years ago trying to get their coin launched? Do you understand why, for those of you who do not know, Tether announced 2 years ago, they said from their profits from people using Tether, they make billions of dollars. Once again, the transaction cost to use Tether, I think, is like 1 cent. I'm certain, like it's incredibly low. The billions of dollars that they make in profit, they said that 15% of that would be used to buy Bitcoin. This was a while ago, and it pops back up every now and again because every quarter they show us, hey, we bought 14,000 more Bitcoin. Thanks, guys, for selling it onto the market. Like that kind of thing. It happens over and over. When I tell you that this is about money, I need you to understand that this is about money. We are currently in the throes of one of the weirdest, most futuristic wealth transfers that we're probably ever witnessing or will ever witness ever again. When you talk about rich people getting into Bitcoin, getting into this space, and they're expecting it to go to $1 million+ per coin, they don't want us here. They want all the Satoshis for themselves. When you keep hearing that there are other companies who are launching stablecoins, do you remember? You can find them because there's thousands of them. There's the Wall Street Journal, WSJ. Type in WSJ and Tether. Your phone's going to melt with the amount of articles that end up popping up. For years, the Wall Street Journal has done everything that they can to continue writing articles about how bad, evil, awful, malicious, and blah, blah, blah Tether is. And it's like, well, Tether keeps proving that they actually have the money. So one of my theories, you might remember from even years ago, I was like, why are you going so hard? Why are you making, why this one specific thing? And I was like, of course, it's money. Someone behind the scenes is working with someone to make sure that Tether isn't popular. People think that something's wrong with it so that they stop using Tether. And then guess what? Oh my gosh, another new stablecoin popped up. And then they tell us that's the one that we're supposed to be using. It's all just about money, but the way that these people act is always quite gross. Do you understand that there are world banks that do not do $2.2 trillion in transactions in 1 month? You understand why so many people are getting into this space? The amount of money there is to be made? If it's estimated that there are 100 million people, roughly give or take, in the entire cryptocurrency space, and they did $2.2 trillion in April alone, what happens when that number goes up to 1 billion people in crypto? How much money is Tether and Coinbase? And is there still a Binance stablecoin? You understand that the entire Binance Changpeng Cao thing was meant as a show of strength against Binance, who was also, it still is, outpacing Coinbase's growth. You understand that, right? Because Binance's stablecoin was also doing incredibly well. When you talk about people have found a way to mimic the US dollar and make trillions in transaction volume, it comes down to one thing, and it's just about money. Visa, the study that Visa conducted was basically to show that the stable coins aren't being used. Why would Visa make a study that's outright false? Because I'm going to show you the information, and this news was popular. I think because everyone is either propagandized to the point where they think that this is supposed to be true, and or people were told to post these things as if they were actually true. Because listen to this. The dashboard, designed to isolate transactions made by real people, found out that out of approximately $2.2 trillion in stablecoin transactions in April, only $149 billion originated from organic payment activity. Wait till you hear what's actually going on. The study said that USDC, the stablecoin issued by Circle, has outpaced Tether's USDT stablecoin in value. Has anyone else found it weird? Remember when we got the news that the ETFs were launching, that they had all partnered nearly exclusively with Coinbase and no other company? Notably, on-chain analysis from Nansen revealed that the overall volume for stablecoins has surpassed Visa's 2023 average. Why would Visa be annoyed or create a study that says that stablecoin value isn't actually real? When you look through the actual study that was conducted, the stablecoins did do $2.2 trillion in volume. You want to know what this $149 billion was? Do you remember back in 2017, 2018? I mean, no, explicitly 2017. We started hearing rumblings at the end of the year that China and Russia were getting ready to ban crypto, stop crypto usage, make it illegal, etc., etc. Do any of you remember why? You probably do not, because it wasn't a really popular news story, but it's in my head. We got news that there were a lot, not a handful, but a lot of merchants who were near the border of China and Russia. And the issue is that if they were doing business on one of the borders, these people would have to take a huge amount of cash, go over the border, and they'd have to find one of those exchange places. And they would literally have to swap out one pile of paper for another to be able to do transactions within that country. There were a number of fees. You had to worry about someone jacking you, essentially, because they took your money as you were walking across the border. If you were a major seller, you know what the solution was? These people started using Tether as their main source of transactions. And we found out, the public, that these transactions were amounting to essentially millions of dollars equivalent per week. And there was someone, you can find the articles, it's very old. Type in maybe China, Russia, Tether transactions. It's a very old article. And people were literally, they were like, it's so much easier and it's so much more secure and the fees are extremely low. I don't have to swap into anything. And even when I go back over the border, I still essentially have my money, which I can then send to a crypto exchange and swap out of it. You know, it was a very convenient way for these people to have made money. And that was the moment that we began to hear the rumors of a ban and stopping it. It's the same exact thing in India. We also heard years ago that people were using stablecoins not only to preserve the value of, you know, in general from inflation, but also as an easy way to transact with money around the world. The people who print the money have the control. When you shift that completely, and I mean, even in the case of a centralized thing like stablecoins, when you shift that into a network that you can use immediately on your phone, and your fee for a transaction is 1 cent, and none of that money ever touches the bank, ever touches a clearinghouse, ever touches anything from the government, who do you think that's going to make upset? The $149 billion that they're talking about from organic payments were people around the world, normal people around the world who were actually using stablecoins. $149 billion worth of stablecoins were used by normal people around the world to transact, to send money to family and friends, to go to little places, little markets where they were transacting in as well. People were swapping in their money from Argentina and other countries which are currently experiencing hyperinflation to protect their money in some sort of way. Normally, you would swap into the US dollar. You would try and find some way to get you some USD to be able to protect your money. You would have to pay tons of fees and also walk around with this cash in your hand and in your pockets. Welcome to 2024, where someone else figured out another system where you don't have to do all of that and you have low transaction fees. You understand what $149 billion in 1 month of April, while the market was down? For those of you who don't get it, the 2.2 trillion minus the 149 billion came from bots because those coins were still being used. The news is from Visa is that, oh no normal people are actually using stable coins. No, 2.2 trillion minus 1.49 billion is still over $2 trillion that were being used. For those of you who don't understand why they use the term bots, it's because it's meant to discredit the actual usage of it. Show of hands, do any of you know how people trade in the stock market now? I heard someone say it. Yeah, it's by using bots. Have you heard of high frequency trading? The vast majority of money moving around in the stock market isn't done by humans. It's done by bots. So we can only assume that the high frequency trading done in crypto is also done by bots. Do you want to know why they use bots? Well, the idea is that if you train a bot or you train AI or something to trade for you, I would not recommend it. You need an egregious amount of money to be able to pull this off. And I mean an egregious amount of money to be able to do this. It's essentially, let's say someone writes, or there are 15 different articles about something that happened in the cryptocurrency market that day. One article says Bitcoin's going to 100K. One article says Bitcoin's going to 150,000. One article says Bitcoin is just about to hit $87,000. Another one says Bitcoin is doing so-and-so because it needs to do this. And they all have a relative general optimistic vibe that's floating around in the air. As we are human, and it would take us a long time to read all of these and ascertain and put an idea together as to what other people around the world are going to do, bots are trained to read these articles, and they read it in a second. It would take us around a good hour and a half to scour through all of these, figure out what we're going to do, sign into the platform, figure out exactly how much money we want to move around comparative to the other people who are also in the market. You know who does it instantaneously? A bot. It reads all the articles. It sweeps the internet, finding the sentiment of the market. It checks to see if you're in the stock market. It checks to see if a company has had bad news that day. There was a merger that was going to be planned and now it's not happening. That's bad for the company. So what the bots do is they trade in high frequency based off of all the news and the information that they're getting out there. That's how it works. So instead of actually swapping their Bitcoin or their Ether or their XRP or their ADA back into Bitcoin, these bots, of course, are using Tether. The discrediting comes from, well, it's not any real usage. And it's like, well, can we talk about all the times that the US dollar is also being used for high frequency trading and large scale traders using the stock market? Are those transactions then not real? Of course they are. This was incredibly popular news, and it signifies a brand new shift into this new world where crypto is taking over faster than a lot of people expected. When you talk about the money that flows into Bitcoin ETFs, it's because it's coming as a surprise to a lot of people that other people have thrown their money into these ETFs. You can't hear these numbers as a company or an institution and not either A, get interested, or B, get scared. If you've been around as Visa and MasterCard and have had control over this market for decades, Tether pops up in 2017, Circle pops up in, I think, 2019, 2020, and they're already outpacing you in transactions where you're going to be worried and you're going to start making a whole bunch of studies talking about where stable coins aren't actually being used. Now I'm going to show you the actual, here's the original thing from Bloomberg, the original article. Is it this one right here? No, it's this one right here. For those of you not looking at the screen, in a blog post written by something called Sacra's, Sacra's co-founder, Jan-Erik Asplund, that sounds rich. Oh my gosh. The firm emphasized that stablecoins are an extremely suitable option for cross-border money movements. According to Asplund, the total payment volume of stablecoins could even surpass Visa, reaching over $4 trillion US dollars. It was there the entire time. Stablecoins have not been adopted by institutions in mass because these companies have been trying to make their own. We've seen a plethora of stablecoins trying to launch over the years. Did no one think it was weird the amount of articles constantly being released about how Tether was terrible and awful and evil and blah, blah, blah. And it kept on going. And I was like, if something was really wrong with Tether, it would not be on any crypto exchange. This ties directly into what I was saying about all those lawsuits against the crypto exchanges from the SEC and all those other corrupt countries around the world. I find it very difficult to believe that Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, and Gemini were doing business in countries around the world and made sure not to have any paperwork. Do you understand how dumb that would be? How illegal that would be? You know, they have dozens of lawyers, right? You expect me to believe that Binance and Coinbase and Kraken and Gemini were just literally opening up shop somewhere physically and like, hope the authorities don't figure it out. When we kept on getting all that Tether news years ago, I was like, especially when that was the only stablecoin and it was like the dominant one. I was like, I find that a little hard to believe that these crypto exchanges would be using a coin on their platform that they built that's worth billions of dollars, that they would do anything to ruin the integrity of that platform. The news that we kept on getting was that there were like 3 companies who were doing audits and yada, yada. I don't work for these companies, but I can almost to a T assure you that Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, and Binance had private conversations with the people from Tether and were like, you're going to tell us exactly how much you have or we're taking you off of our platform. Do you think this is a game? Do you understand how much money there is to be made in this space? You understand how big our market is in such a short period of time? The only reason stablecoins without mass adoption are passing Visa and MasterCard. And the lack of worldwide adoption has to do with lies, propaganda, these countries banning cryptocurrencies and making sure that people don't use them because they're trying to make sure that people are still using their paper currencies. Think about it. So when this news came out and I found this article, immediately I was like, of course this is the actual issue. Because if all the other companies who've been lying and trying to create their own garbage stable coins had actually adopted Tether, if more apps begin to adopt them, if more countries are like, okay, cool, you can do business here, they're going to surpass the largest payment networks on the planet. The problem is that these companies, and I say this lightly, many companies out there around the world will continue fibbing to make sure that they keep money in their own pockets. Did anyone think it was weird? Remember this? Anyone remember? For those of you who weren't here, Visa said about a year and a half ago that they're looking to actually start integrating Bitcoin and Ethereum into their systems. Why would they be doing it? Right, because they're taking over the world. You might remember that was a very annoying video for me because the article was Visa is basically, so we heard, making like a checkpoint for Ethereum transactions through their systems. So essentially, let's say you're trying to send a friend some Ether. Instead of you normally using the blockchain, clicking the amount and clicking send, and then your friend gets it, Visa wants you to send your Ether to them. And then it goes through multiple clearinghouses through their systems, which have a bunch of fees that you are then obligated to pay. And then the coins go to your friend. You can find the article. This was a major thing. The news then, once again, nonsensical, was touted as something revolutionary. Visa's getting into crypto. Visa's gonna allow Ethereum payments to run through their network. You know, Ethereum already is its own network, right? I don't have to send. That's like you trying to send Bitcoin to someone, and you take your Bitcoin off of your computer, you send it to Coinbase, and you send it to another wallet address that's on Coinbase, and then that person takes it off and puts it onto their computer or onto their phone. It's the literal equivalent of that. But the desperation begins to quickly run in when you realize that this system that you've created, people no longer need it. There is no longer in the year 2024 and moving forward, there is no longer a need for the Visa system, for the MasterCard system, for MoneyGram or Western Union. You know, MoneyGram and Western Union sometimes have a fee of 25%. 25% when sending money to someone else around the world. You need to have pre-funded accounts to even use these things. Sometimes when people around the world are trying to send money to their family members, you will be told, no, we can't do it right now. Because on the other side of the world, you think this is a joke. On the other side of the world, you need to have a pre-funded account. If you're trying to send Mexican pesos to Zimbabwean dollars, that company, that Western Union, that MoneyGram in that country has to have an account of pre-funded Mexican pesos. Literally, they have to have it there. That's how the old system works. Visa and MasterCard are no longer needed. And I say that even from the standpoint, hear me out here, it's gonna hurt myself. Even from the standpoint of Coinbase, and you know I don't care for Coinbase. Coinbase has these debit cards that are linked to your actual crypto accounts. If on your crypto account on Coinbase, you have, what do you call it? Bitcoin and Tether, you don't really need the old, you can simply just pay in that way. It's through Coinbase, but alas, hands in the air, I lightly digress. Very interesting. And I wonder why this news was so popular and touted as this like amazingly crazy, awesome, wonderful thing that, that stablecoins weren't used as much as people say they were. No, they were definitely still used. And that's just from the high frequency traders. You have $100-something billion worth of transactions, people who are like, I can't use the old system. I've been locked out of the old system. You forget a lot of times that where you live has kind of made you what you are and what you have access to. I told you that before. The systems that you have and the ease of use of things that you have is because you were born in a certain place. 4 billion people do not have access to the legacy system. That is a bank account. That is Visa. That is MasterCard. That is PayPal. You know what these people can have access to? A smartphone. You know what that smartphone that then also has access to? Tether and Bitcoin and Ethereum. Anyway, yeah, I don't know what more to say. I've kind of exhausted myself. It's just more of I guess it's another stay vigilant kind of thing when you hear these things, because the negative energy is coming from all directions. Whether it be people who don't like Bitcoin and they continue, that guy Peter, oh my gosh, this guy is constantly on the news and it's so embarrassing. If you don't like something, don't talk about it. And I know that, that completely gets swept under the rug when you're talking about these companies who are trying to make trillions of dollars. But if we hear that Visa is making their own stablecoin, don't be shocked at all. There's so much money to be made and our market has gotten so big so fast. The legacy enterprises don't know what to do anymore. what happens when we get to a $100,000 Bitcoin? The amount of people who are going to flood into this market, we're going to have news. Remember before the news that we had that Bitcoin, I think, was the 10th largest asset on the planet. When Bitcoin becomes the 3rd largest asset on the planet, we're going to have people rushing into our markets. These are the numbers before we initiate the continuation of the crazy bull run. Anyway, yeah, this space is very, very special. I wonder what conversation these people are having behind the scenes where they're like, what are we going to do? Our entire business model is completely falling apart. You don't need to send Visa your Ether to get it to your friend. You can do it already on chain. Rightio. I think that's definitely going to do it for this video. I didn't mean for it to be so intense, but alas, here we are. There's so much history in this space, and this is why I always say, like, I'm always referencing other things in the past, because it's fascinating to see the growth and the evolution of this space, and it's also interesting to see this kind of like weird disconnect where this news comes out, it ends up being really popular, and everyone's supposed to be like, buy bots, and it's like, yeah, everyone like who's trading usually uses bots. And I mean, if they have millions of dollars, the average person, if you're just buying a couple of ETFs and stuff, if you're doing like mega high frequency trading, you're using bots. You need the bot to be able to literally see what's going on within the market. For those of you who don't know, this is also, I guess, the same exact thing. BlackRock has an AI called Aladdin. Look it up. It came about in the 80s, didn't do too well, and it's part of the reason why they're worth or holding trillions of dollars worth of assets. It's because this bot, this AI, essentially tells them like where the market trends are going. There are people around the world who trade based off of what Aladdin tells them to do. A couple of years ago, look it up, it's crazy. A couple of years ago, I think Aladdin told people to start getting into real estate. This was 2019 or something like that. And this is where all the corporate landlords came from. It basically looks for undervalued assets, or like where the most like money is to, you know, to be gained, and people follow it. We already live in a world that's dominated by AI, but the average person doesn't understand it. People keep thinking it's something like Terminator or all these other things. No. We already live in that world. You just can't see it because it's happening online. There's AI everywhere. Anyway, yeah, our market continues to grow. And I really wonder where the world and this market is going to be in 10 years. Do you understand our level of exponential growth that we're seeing in this space right now? In 10 years, if we have the Lightning Network and I dare say a proper Ethereum scaling solution, there's no longer a need for Visa or MasterCard or MoneyGram or Western Union. The world would be able to completely move on crypto and on stablecoins should people decide to use them in their daily activities around the world. Do you understand that? You understand what a shift that would be? People no longer using the euro, the yen, or the US dollar, because Bitcoin's at 1.5 million, Ethereum's at 35,000, and people are using stablecoins as like another way to be able to transact. What's the point of the old systems then? Anywho, I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.